Do you wonder about past lives? Have you ever thought about where your soul has been, where it's going, or what lessons and memories have been gathered along the way? In this podcast, we will discuss past life memories, psychic phenomena, energy healing, and other metaphysical topics with experts and the average person to find out how we can heal through these experiences. So I invite you to join me on my journey. Welcome to the Regression session. Welcome back to the Regression session. My name is Ian. Welcome to the Regression session. To any new listeners, thanks for tuning in. We love you. Sorry about last week. I just couldn't get to it. You know, keeping up with content takes a lot. And when you got two kids and a bunch of stuff going on, it's kind of hard to keep up on. So forgive me. This week I'm trying to do something a little bit different. I haven't really done it before. What it is me giving an introduction to a concept. So this week it's going to be astrology, but I want to start doing these where I just kind of do like an info dive into these different topics so that my audience can understand it a little bit better. If I talk to somebody who comes on and is talking about whatever, tarot cards, astrology, past life regression, whatever, I can be like, hey, refer to my episode, blah, 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 to get more info on what we're talking about here. So that's what this is. So it's going to be pretty scripted. I feel like I just spent like 4 hours writing an essay because I had to do so much research on this. Astrology is a fairly complicated topic to dive into. So I hope that you'll bear with me and that you get something out of this because it took a long time to put all this stuff together and actually understand it. Don't forget to subscribe in your podcast player so you don't miss any of my weekly uploads. And don't forget to share the podcast with literally everybody in the entire world. That would be fantastic. It'll help the show grow. And don't forget, if you want to come onto the podcast to talk with me about your past life experience or your knowledge on any metaphysical topic, shoot me an email. My email is theregressionsession@gmail.com. And now my dive into astrology. I hope you like it. For thousands of years, our ancestors stared into the night sky in hopes of using the map in the heavens to divine their destiny. And although the practice has changed over the years, we are still fascinated by the stars to this day. In fact, millions of dollars have been spent to create technology with which we can look further into the unknown than ever before. Using science and astronomy, we can see the stars in relation to us on a cosmic scale. We can understand the relative location and makeup of the stars and even describe the weather on a distant planet with relative accuracy. As amazing as looking at the stars is, over the centuries, a long-held tradition of aligning astronomy with spirituality was phased out of stargazing. The practice didn't die, however, and is now known as astrology. In this episode, I hope to give all of you a better understanding of what astrology is, how it works, the breakdown of its components, as well as some personal thoughts about it. So what exactly is astrology? I'll read you a couple definitions here. If we go by the wiki definition, astrology is a pseudoscience. I don't love that word, pseudoscience. That claims to discern information about human affairs and terrestrial events by studying the movements and relative positions of celestial objects. A less strictly scientific definition is astrology is the art of interpreting the placement of the planets and constellations in relation to the Earth to understand personality, karmic cycles, and collective experience. During my research on this, my brain hurt because there's so many things to keep track of while working with astrology. So I'm going to try to break down the main parts of astrology that I found in my research and give an overview of what they are and kind of break it down as I go. And I got a new kitten, so if you hear like a bird chirping in the background, it's my kitten playing with a bird toy. So first, let's go into a little bit of a brief history about astrology. Astrology can be traced back as far as Babylon, where it was known as divination. Its primary purpose was to inform the royal court of impending disaster or success. And these might take the forms of like meteorological or epidemic phenomena affecting like entire human, animal, or plant populations, or frequently they involve the military affairs of the state, or probably most likely like the personal lives of the king and his family. So it's just like a little horoscope for the famous people or whatever. Divination later commingled with what came to be known as astrology in Babylon around 1700 BCE, and these practices then spread to Egypt, China, India, Greece, Italy. It's kind of expanded all over the area, and then they branched out independently, creating their own unique practices from there. And in order to save time, I'm not going to be going into the specific histories of like Egypt, China, India, Greece, all those places, because we'd be here all day. But since then, astrologers have tried to incorporate the planets that were discovered since the Renaissance into the general scheme of astrology and find some sort of statistical relation between planetary positions and human lives. And various differences now exist among the different branches of astrology. There is some debate among skeptics of the legitimacy of this. I mean, obviously, skeptics aren't going to be able to have proof that any of this stuff lines up with real life. And who's to say it can or can't? So moving out of the history of astrology, let's move into like the actual practice and the aspects of it. I'm only going to give brief overviews on this stuff. So this is like an introduction to astrology. But the different aspects include, but are not limited to, the sun, the moon, your rising constellation, the planets, signs, and houses. So those are the basics. For my purposes today, I'm just going to stick with those basic things. So let's touch on the sun. So what is the meaning of the sun in your astrology chart? Well, essentially, the sun is like what drives you. What makes you feel a sense of purpose, what gives you a feeling of accomplishment, what makes you tick. It can also represent the type of energy you need to feel recharged. You can think of it as the driving force that helps you to reach your goals. So in short, your motivations. Your moon sign represents like your inner self. So your emotions, your feelings, your self-care needs, your intuitive side. So usually, apparently, when this is revealed to you, you feel pretty vulnerable. So it's like the side that makes you feel vulnerable when you share it with other people. Represents how you share your emotions, what makes you comfortable when doing so. So the moon is like the more private inner you. And as far as your rising sign, you can use the word rising or you can use the word ascending. So those are interchangeable as far as astrologists are concerned. But what this is the constellation that was rising over the eastern sky the moment that you were born. And this is supposed to represent your external self. So the side of you that you readily share with others, the outgoing side of yourself, the part of you that you're not feeling like embarrassed, I guess, to share with other people or vulnerable to share with other people. It also represents like your physical energy and the type of energy that you need to help drive your physical body, and also your overall approach to life. So those three, the sun, the moon, and the rising sign, are like the three main things of astrology. Like the rest of it kind of branches out from there. The next section is the planets, and this is where the actual planets in our solar system come into play, and not like constellations in the night sky. And the planets represent different things, like lots of different things. So basically there's three different types of planets. So you have the personal planets, the transpersonal planets, and the generational planets. And how this works is basically the closer the planets are to Earth, the more they affect you on a personal level, right? Because they're closer to us and they go around the sun more quickly. And the farther away that they move away, or that they are from the Earth, the slower they move around the sun, which means that they affect you on a more distant level. And I'll get more into that in a second. But first, the personal planets. So these are the ones that affect you the most because they're the closest to you. And the personal planets are Mercury, Venus, and Mars. Earth is not included because that is where we are located, and that is where we're viewing all this from. So obviously it's not going to be included in the chart. So let's talk about what the personal planets affect. So Mercury represents how you communicate and what you like to talk about. So essentially communication. And then Venus represents how you give and receive love and what you find beautiful in life or valuable about life. And then Mars represents how you take action and express your emotions, and also how you can express your passions and what you're like fiery about, right? So whatever you are get fired up about, that's what Mars kind of represents. And the way that the planets work, and all this stuff on the chart works, is if you understand what each piece means, it's all about how they intersect with other things. But it's all based off of, it's kind of like building. So the first things, the sun, the moon, and the ascending or the rising is what it's based off of. And then the planets will cross over with those things. And all the other stuff that I'm going to go over will also kind of cross over and intersect with things on your chart. And later in the episode, I'm actually going to have some links, and there's some links in the description that will allow you to make your own astrology or birth chart that you can go through and practice with this if that's something that you're interested in. So the next planets that we're going to go over are the transpersonal planets, and they have to do how we interact with society. And so you can kind of see as we move farther and farther away from the sun, the slower they move around the sun, and that's the I guess the reasoning behind it. So they're affecting us less and less. So this is like how we interact with society. And those planets are Jupiter and Saturn. So Jupiter represents how you express and experience a few different things. So it's like faith, trust, luck, and how you grow, right? Within the context of society. And then Saturn represents how you take responsibility and handle commitment. So next are the generational planets, and these affect the values of our generation. So as we can see, the farther we get away from the sun, the less and less it affects us on a personal level. And now we're looking at like a grand scheme of our whole generation, because a year on Pluto is like hundreds of years on Earth, right? So it's pretty slow. So we're looking at an entire generation for these. So the 3 planets that are the generational planets are Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. And I grew up saying Uranus. I guess the astronomers out there got tired of all the jokes that I participated in. Anyway, Uranus represents the revolutionary impact your generation will have on the world. Again, we're looking at how these things intersect with all the other stuff on the chart, and that will give you more insight. And Neptune will represent the boundaries and ideas that your generation will get rid of and release, so dissolve, because every generation likes to change things that the previous generation had, right? And then Pluto represents which elements of society as a whole that your generation will completely dismantle and then rebuild from the rubble that they dismantle. So pretty big picture here. And so that's kind of a lot to grasp so far, and I hope it's not too confusing. I was so confused when I was first researching this stuff. So I'll include all the links to the articles and stuff that I read in the description so that you can check it out yourself if this is not making sense. So the next aspects of astrology are the signs, and these are like what people refer to most often when they talk about astrology. It's like, oh my God, what's your sign, right? So I'm a Capricorn, for example, right? And I'm sure that you guys are all familiar with these, or people who are vaguely familiar with astrology will be familiar with these. This is the poster child. So I'm just gonna touch on those. And then like what they're classified as, and then what they kind of affect or govern. So we'll start with Aries, and Aries is the warrior. Aries are passionate, assertive, and action-oriented. Next up is Taurus. Taurus is the goddess. Sensual, pleasure-seeking, and looking for the easiest path, or the path of least resistance. Gemini, the magician, curious, flexible, and social. Cancer, the mother, nurturing, emotional, and protective. Leo, the sovereign, bold, self-loving, and creative. Virgo, the priestess, ritualistic, of service, and organized. Libra, the lover, intellectual, artistic, and partnership-oriented. Scorpio, the witch, deep, mysterious, and transformational. Sagittarius, the healer, wisdom-seeking, adventurous, expansive. Capricorn, the crone, baby, that's me, grounded, practical, and responsible. And kind of as a side note, by the way, I recently became a vegetarian, and for whatever reason, ever since I became a vegetarian, I've been able to like channel spirit guides, I guess. It's super weird, but I went into this like 2-hour long channeling session, I guess. I don't really remember much of it, but apparently this stuff kind of came up, and I touch on this a little bit later in my essay or whatever this is, but I started like talking about how we choose our astrology signs and stuff before birth. It was pretty weird, and it actually affects the way that you function mentally, and you choose these things specifically to help yourself learn different life lessons. And I chose Capricorn so that I would be grounded and practical, because it was a challenge to me to accept like spirituality into my life, and it still is to this day. Like, I seriously question my own sanity in doing this stuff, and it's been a real challenge. Anyway, back to the signs. Aquarius, the rebel, revolutionary, open to change, and alternative, whatever that means. And then Pisces, the oracle, sensitive, intuitive, and empathic. So I'm guessing a lot of psychics out there are Pisces. Not that I'm an astrologer. This is purely informational. So those are the signs. And now we're going to look at the houses. So this was really like probably the most confusing thing to me about this. The houses are like, okay, so they're ruled by different signs, right? So each one of the signs rules a different house. So just like there's 12 signs, there's 12 houses, and each house is kind of like in charge of different things. So it basically, what it is it's another thing to help your chart to dissect with different things, and it helps to line your chart up a little bit more with more nuance, I guess. That's really what it comes down to. So I'm going to go over the houses and the rulers of each house and what each house governs. And this stuff is, like I said, kind of big picture stuff. So Aries rules the first house, and this pretty much just goes in the same exact order. So it's Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Leo, Virgo, Libra, Scorpio, Sagittarius, Capricorn, Aquarius, and Pisces. And I'm going to go over that slow. So Aries, ruler of the first house, and this is the house of self. And so it's like the way that you view yourself, your appearances, like the body. So first impressions, your outward attitude, what you identify with in your approach to life. So that's kind of what the first house is. And then Taurus rules the second house, and the second house is the house of value. So this is like money, work, income, making money, going to work, what things you value in your life. So like what material possessions you like, what monetary priorities you have, your job, your career, your ethics when it comes to money, all that stuff. So big picture, this is all big picture stuff. Gemini rules the third house, and the third house is the house of sharing. So this is like, when we're talking about sharing here, we're talking about communication. So how do you communicate from your mind and share that through your actions and words? So like this governs like your social activities and interests that you're willing to share, how you interact with like your neighbors and all that stuff. So when we're talking about sharing, we're talking about sharing your thoughts, I guess. And then the next house is the fourth house, which is ruled by Cancer. And the fourth house is the house of home and family. And it's pretty this is probably like one of the more self-explanatory ones. So like your home, how you like to run your home, how you like to organize your home, your family roots, your self-care, like what do you like to do, how do you like to relax in your house. Obviously it probably won't get that specific, but these are the kinds of things that would be included in that house. So like your family. So are you a mother? Do you identify as like a father or just a child or a brother? Blah blah blah, whatever. I guess femininity is also included in that. Ow! Sorry about that. As I told you all before, I got a new kitten and she decided to just jump up and claw me right in the leg. All right, so now moving on. The fifth house. So this house is ruled by Leo, and Leo rules the house of pleasure, the pleasure house. So this is like romance, love affairs. I guess it also includes like play and creativity, and for fertility, like childlike spirit, joy, self-expression, drama. So like all the stuff that you would find physical pleasure in, really, and I guess a little bit like emotional pleasure. So pleasure, we use pleasure here. This is all big picture stuff, right? So pleasure on a very broad spectrum, or a broad understanding of what pleasure actually is. And it's not just like sexual pleasure either. It's like all kinds. Next up, we have the sixth house, and the sixth house is ruled by Virgo. And the sixth house is the house of health. So this is like health and fitness. I guess pets also are included in this for some reason. But like your work habits versus relaxation habits, organization, sense of usefulness. So this also includes like your mental health, right? So it's just all about whatever kind of health we can look at, because there's all different kinds. It pretty much breaks down into, I think, like 3 different categories in my book. You've got your mental health, your physical health, and your spiritual health, right? So those are the kinds of things that this looks into. And then, so the next house after this is the seventh house. The seventh house is Libra, is ruled by Libra, and this is the house of balance. So this is like long-term relationships, marriage. I guess it deals with balancing work and home life, stuff like that. So just balance in general. Again, very, very broad use of these terms. It's a house of balance, but these are just some things that we can look at that give context as to what it means. But when we say balance or health or whatever, also like equality and sharing, stuff like that. The eighth house is ruled by Scorpio, and the eighth house is the house of transformation, right? So this one is about, for whatever reason, I don't know, I'm not really sure how transformation really plays into this, but I guess on a broad level it does. So transformation, when we talk about that, we're talking about like sex and intimacy, sharing finances, stuff like that. So like merging, right? Because when we look at like having sex with someone and getting pregnant, having a baby, you're transforming two people into a new person, I guess, technically. Like I said, I'm not really 100% sure how that plays in, because it also lists things like taxes, loans, assets, property, joint ventures, and goals, and then like your partner's resources. So this one's pretty weird to me, so I'm just take it for what it is. The next one is Sagittarius. And Sagittarius rules the ninth house, and the ninth house is the house of purpose. So this is like philosophy, higher education, religion, cross-cultural relations, travel. So, anything that you can find a sense of purpose in, this is where it would live, would be in the ninth house. Capricorn, me baby. Capricorn rules the 10th house, and the 10th house is the house of enterprise, And so this is things, like your long-term career goals, your life structure as a whole. So this one is like really big picture. As a Capricorn, I can personally attest to how long-term we look out at things. This does like the more masculine. So Capricorns tend to be very like more masculine, fathers, experts. They get very niched down into their fields. They become very specialized in things, and they're very good at what they do. Very money centric for the Capricorns. Anyway, I digress. The 11th house is ruled by Aquarius, and this is the house of blessings. And so this is, things that are considered blessings. It has in here like social groups, friends, technology, hopes and wishes for the future, technology, because technology is a blessing. Life would be way harder without it. So things like that, just anything that you could consider a blessing would live in the 11th house. Or things that, like, if you were considered blessed, for example, if you had a crossover with X planet in this house, you could be blessed with that. And now the 12th house, Pisces, rules the house of sacrifice. And so this one is like endings and closure and healing. Another one is spirituality, I guess solitude, old age, afterlife. These are just the things that I found that are associated with this. Hidden things, limiting beliefs. So this one is kind of like the more depressing house, sacrificing yourself for others without personal gain, or sacrificing yourself too much. So all those things that I just went over are like the basics of astrology, and it's kind of confusing, but this is in no way like a comprehensive overview. It's simply just like a basics to lay out or help you with your basic understanding. If this is something that interests you, definitely check out the resources that I linked in my description. It's like 3 or 4 articles, including like just a Wikipedia page, but it's fairly complex, and there's a lot more stuff that goes into this. And so I said that there's some links in the description. I'll just kind of read what those websites are that you can go to get your own astrology chart. And they are, and just so you know, I am not affiliated with these websites. They're not a sponsor. I am not in contact with them at all, but I just found them online, and they are www.astro.com and www.astro-charts.com. Links in the description if you want to check those out. Again, not affiliated with them, not a sponsor. I just found them online and thought it was kind of cool. So now I'm going to go into like what my thoughts are on astrology. There's some people out there that practice astrology that kind of believe that basically you're essentially born into this mold as a person. So you have your astrology chart, you're born into that mold, and that is your whole life. So your sense of like free will and choice are basically, if we go by that, an illusion, and you're kind of just governed by this cosmic set of circumstances that you were randomly kind of born into. Right? And I think that's super depressing. I pretty much fundamentally disagree with that take on it. If astrology is real, and I never thought that I would say this, but I'm kind of leaning towards it just because of some things that have happened. One of these days I'm going to do like a channeling thing where I just channel onto my podcast. It's going to be pretty weird. But I'm kind of leaning towards like it is, but it's not what people think it is. It's like a choice, right? You're choosing to come into I wrote it down, and I'm going to just read what I wrote down. What fits more with my worldview is that astronomy basically is a way for us to indicate trends and potential circumstances that you were born into. And then those trends and circumstances can be changed by the intervention of human will. But essentially, you choose those circumstances of your birth and the lessons that you want to learn, and then you're born under certain conditions that make those lessons more likely. And so these conditions are more likely to assist you with learning those or lessons or accomplishing those goals. And that's basically the information that was pushed to me when I was doing these weird channeling sessions that just randomly happened to me recently, is that you do choose these things and you do choose these conditions and circumstances to assist you, but you're not stuck in them. You do have the choice, and you can decide to change these circumstances and change your goals. And these are the things that whoever I am channeling really wants everybody to know, is that you can change, and that pretty much everybody that I've talked to in this state, they're telling us that we can change and that we're not stuck in a mold. So depending on the choices you make, you can change your circumstances and the outcomes of the dice roll. If you want to call life like a huge roll of the dice, like a 5 bajillion sided die. And like I said kind of a little bit earlier, in my work as a regression hypnotist, I have come across this concept independently among different clients that I've taken on. And, the concept that astrology is legitimate, and we do choose our signs and our handicaps beforehand and before we come here in order to accomplish certain goals. And this isn't to say that I fully buy into anything or any of this stuff. I am leaning towards this kind of a conclusion, but there is some anecdotal evidence to suggest that yes, we do choose these things and they are legitimate. However, just like anything on this podcast, I recommend using this as simply a tool to just assist you in healing and understanding yourself better. And if you don't even buy into it, and it's just something that you're just kind of like, oh yeah, that's interesting, you can just look at it as like a mental exercise, right? Getting more of a perspective on yourself. Same thing with like tarot cards, right? It can be pretty generalized advice, but even sometimes general advice can open your eyes to things that you hadn't seen before. So if you don't buy into it, you can just simply use the knowledge however you want to. But either way, thanks so much for tuning into today's episode. I hope that you got something out of it. I hope that you can have fun creating your own astrology charts. Feel free to let me know how it goes if you do create your own chart and you do use this information to start to try to interpret it. It can be kind of confusing, but it's kind of fun at the same time. I haven't heard from a lot of people lately, so that's kind of sucks. But, if you're feeling like you want to reach out to me and let me know how you're doing, I would love to hear from you. It seriously makes my day when I hear from my listeners. And, it's kind of getting to be a little bit of a grind nowadays to get this out there. For a while there, I was kind of like having people email me and they're like, oh my God, I love your show. Thanks so much. And that's kind of died off now. And I don't really get too many of y'all reaching out to me on the social medias and stuff like that. But I would love to hear from you. I truly would. Don't forget to share the show around with everybody in the entire Earth and cosmos. That way we can grow the show. Maybe then someone would reach out to me. Don't forget to subscribe in your podcast player. And if you know anybody out there that is potentially interested in astrology, is just getting into it, or kind of showed interest, and you found this guide helpful, go ahead and send it over to them. And I hope that it can help out whoever. And if you do want to come on the show to talk to me about your past life experience, your knowledge on any metaphysical topic, your experience in general, shoot me an email My email is theregressionsession@gmail.com, and I would love to have you on the show. Just wanna go.
Show me where to go.